there is a serious problem for the West, for sure. I think the West did not see it coming. However, it was very naive of the Western nations to think that the exploitation of Africa was going to continue unabated forever. The West is definitely, if I may use four-letter word, not so kind, they may be pissing in their pants, because what's happening in Africa is indeed a revolution, and a revolution that's way past due. A revelation among Black people. They're waking up and realizing that what has been happening is wrong, is wrong, is wrong, and change must come. And for true change to come, it must be brought by the people.
In an extraordinary and unapologetic act of diplomatic defiance, the Republic of Chad has officially banned all U.S. nationals from entering its territory. This wasn't just a headline. That's exactly what Chad just did. And the world needs to stop and pay attention. A bold and unapologetic reply to the United States' controversial travel ban that blacklisted multiple African countries, including Chad. What the world witnessed was not merely a diplomatic reaction. It was a declaration of African sovereignty, a signal to the rest of Africa that the age of bowing to the West is over. This move is now reverberating far beyond Chad's borders. It is being studied and applauded across the continent in the diaspora as a defining act of Pan-African resistance, the kind of leadership Africa has long been waiting for. President Déby's message to the world was as sharp as it was unapologetic. Chad has no planes to offer, no billions of dollars to give, but Chad has its dignity and pride. This is more than a quote. It is a line drawn in the sand. It is Chad saying to Washington, to Europe, and to the entire global North, you will no longer speak the language of power without being answered by the voice of African dignity. The decision came after the United States, under President Donald Trump, expanded its immigration restrictions and banned Chad, along with several other African and non-Western countries, Libya, Somalia, Eritrea, Sudan, Congo-Brazzaville, and others. This so-called security measure was yet another example of Africa being painted as a threat rather than a partner, as a problem rather than a people. In the face of this exclusion, President Déby didn't issue a complaint. He issued a consequence. Chad's government moved swiftly to implement a full suspension of U.S. visas, sending a message rarely heard from African capitals. If you disrespect our people, you will not set foot on our land. While most countries either swallowed their pride or waited for diplomatic favors, Chad said, you ban our people, we ban yours. This is not politics as usual. This is resistance, strategic, calculated, powerful. For too long, African nations have been subjected to travel restrictions, economic threats, and policy conditions dictated by former colonial powers. Most responses to these impositions have been marked by silence or reluctant acceptance. Chad's refusal to follow this script signals a pivotal moment in African diplomacy. It marks a shift away from passive compliance and toward reciprocal policy, a principle that powerful nations have long exercised without hesitation. Too often, African sovereignty is treated as symbolic. Words in constitutions, flags at the UN, handshakes at summits. But true sovereignty is about decision-making power, who controls the land, the borders, the economy, the narrative. By refusing entry to U.S. citizens, President Déby demonstrated that sovereignty is not granted by the powerful, it is exercised by the courageous. Chad reminded the world that no African nation, no matter how economically challenged, should accept one-sided relations with global powers. This decision put Africa back in the driver's seat, not begging for inclusion but demanding respect. As we continue, if you find this video useful and informative, kindly tell us what you think about this development. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think other African countries should follow Chad's path? Now here's the real insult. Chad, like many African countries, is rich. Rich not in foreign currency, but in natural resources and minerals. Chad is endowed with a wide range of natural resources, the most significant of which is oil. Petroleum is the backbone of Chad's economy. Besides oil, Chad has a variety of minerals like gold, uranium, bauxite, salt, tin, and iron ore. Chad also has reserves of limestone, used in cement and construction. Agriculture also plays a crucial role in Chad's resource base, with cotton being a major export crop alongside gum arabic. Western corporations, many of them American and European, are deeply entrenched in Chad. They mine, drill, and extract year after year and ship profits back to their capitals. Chad's natural resources are keeping parts of the Western economy alive, but suddenly when it comes to people, when it comes to freedom of movement, Chad's citizens are branded risks, threats, or unwanted. Chad's ban on U.S. nationals was therefore not just political, it was historical. It was about justice. It was about breaking the cycle of exploitation and humiliation that has defined Africa's relationship with the West for far too long. This is no longer just a Chadian issue. This is a Pan-African issue. From Lagos to Nairobi, Accra to Addis Ababa, African people, especially the youth, are waking up. A new consciousness is rising, a realization that Africa cannot keep playing by the rules of a game rigged against it. President Déby's action has now become a symbol of that awakening, an invitation for other leaders to follow. Because if Chad can do it, what's stopping others? What if Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya said, enough is enough? What if Africa's borders became equally discerning, not just welcoming foreign investors, but demanding mutual respect? What if the African Union backed such decisions with unified strength, refusing to let any African nation stand alone in the face of foreign arrogance? This is how Pan-Africanism moves from theory to action, from slogans to policies, from conferences to consequences. Chad has laid the blueprint. Now it's time for Africa to follow. This is what is expected of other banned countries on the continent. Africans must not kneel to the West. Enough of the humiliation. Imagine if Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, and Kenya joined Chad and said, you ban us? We ban you. You disrespect our citizens? We shut the door. Imagine African borders not as playgrounds for the global North, but as fortified gates for those who show respect. Imagine policy rooted in principle, not permission. Because here's the truth. We don't need billion-dollar GDPs to command dignity. We don't need their media to validate our moves. We need courage, unity, backbone. Chad's stand is a spark in the darkness. It signals the rebirth of an Africa that refuses to be defined by its past or dictated to by former colonizers. This is Pan-Africanism in action, not just in words, conferences, or hashtags, but in policy, diplomacy, and power. If you found this video informative and valuable, kindly share with us your opinion in the comment section below, and do not forget to subscribe to our channel, The New African Order. Thank you.